Well, that's disturbing. Hello, friends. Jay Todd out here at Fremont Street, and here's what's happening.
This Week in Gambling!
This Week in Gambling.
Yeah.
Hello, friends, and welcome to This Week in Gambling. I'm Jay Todd. You know, every now and again, something happens in our industry that is quite surreal. And when it does, I get to report it, which leads us to this week's big story. On our last show, we reported how the U.S. Department of Justice had lost their court battle with the state of New Hampshire over their opinion that the Federal Wire Act applied to all forms of gambling, not just sports betting. On this week's show, we're reporting that the DOJ doesn't seem to give a damn about losing the court case or what the federal judge had to say. In fact, they just sent out a memo announcing that the enforcement of their opinion on the Wire Act has only been delayed. Deputy Attorney General Jeff Rosen issued this memo, setting a brand new enforcement date of January 1st, 2020. And while marijuana is still illegal at the federal level, this decision does beg the question, what the hell is this guy smoking? Jeffrey also said that the delay in enforcement is merely prosecutorial discretion, and it will not protect anyone who violates the Wire Act between now and then, or violates the DOJ's opinion of the Wire Act between now and then. Damn, that must be some good weed. Seriously though, we always said that this case would most likely wind up at the U.S. Supreme Court. And even though the Justice Department has not officially appealed the New Hampshire ruling, this memo sort of tips their hand a bit. Meanwhile, in New Hampshire, they celebrated their court victory by passing a sports betting bill, which now heads to the desk of the governor, who is expected to sign it. I guess he's not so afraid of a memo. Actually, this New Hampshire legislation does have the potential to change the entire landscape of online gambling in America, all with the inclusion of 3 little words. We're going to talk about that at length when we come back from the break.
This week's special offer is for Lady Hammer Casino. Casino City offers exclusive player specials for Lady Hammer and hundreds of other sites. Visit online.casinocity.com for details.
Just a reminder that if you like what we do here, we would appreciate your support by subscribing to our channel. It's free and it makes us feel sort of important. Now, let's get into why this New Hampshire legislation is so important. To do that, we have to back up a minute. You see, the 10th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution gives states the right to regulate gambling within their borders, online or land-based, as long as it's completely within their borders. So, what's all this fuss about the DOJ and the Wire Act? Well, the Wire Act is a federal law, which means it only applies to bets that cross a state line. When it was originally written in 1961, it was intended to apply to organized crime organizations that were using telephone wires to place sports bets across state lines. Fast forward to the 21st century and the advent of the internet. Online gambling opponents theorize that since the internet comes through a wire and that wire crosses state lines, well, you get where this shit is going. These same opponents also theorize that the Wire Act applied to all forms of online gambling, not just sports betting, and well, you can see where this shit's going too, except that the judge in New Hampshire just set their ass straight on that. Well, he tried. Now, this sports betting bill that New Hampshire just passed contains a very short but but very significant phrase. A magical little phrase, if you will, that could change the entire way that the Wire Act is enforced. This phrase is incidental intermediate routing, which may not sound like much until you realize just how the internet works. You see, when a state regulates online gambling, they have to consider geolocation, age verification, and payment processing. If any one of those things take place on the internet and electronically cross a border for even a fraction of a second, well, you can bet your butt that the DOJ is going to be there saying it's illegal based on the Wire Act. Enter these three little words. Incidental intermediate routing means it's okay if one of those components briefly crosses a state line due to the way internet traffic is routed. It kneecaps a large part of the power that the Wire Act has. Plus, it's a great way for New Hampshire to tell the Justice Department to piss off. So we're just going to have to wait and see what happens when New Hampshire signs this bill into law. How will the DOJ react to this? What's the DOJ going to do about the court case that they lost? Time will tell, but most likely it's going to be long, dragged out, and ugly. So stay tuned. This is gonna get good.
Okay, hold on, wait. Do it like this? Something's shaking between my legs, and I'm not sure that
I have that problem too.
it's not a bad problem to have, I'm just saying.
Hey, Macarena!